Hello, my name is Griffin Green. I'm a second-year master's student in the kinesiology program and a graduate assistant for the exercise science department. Today, I'll be presenting our research on the effects of VersaLifts on back squat, kinetics, and kinematics. Introduction. Does heel elevation due to VersaLift insert increase linear kinematics and kinetics in the back squat? So pictured on the left are the VersaLifts. These are inserts that go into your shoe, and they're supposed to improve your depth and elevate your heel in the back squat. So here we have our barbell back squat. The downward phase is the eccentric, the upward phase is the concentric, and we wanted our participants to squat to a depth where their upper leg was parallel to the ground. And we were concerned with that upward phase or the concentric portion of the movement. So our mechanical sub-goals during the back squat, we want to produce maximal linear force and velocity in order to complete the lift. And we expected that VersaLifts would increase linear force production and velocity based on the impulse momentum relationship in Newton's second law. And our hypothesis was VersaLift inserts will produce significantly better kinetics and kinematics than just wearing a normal shoe. So methods, our inclusion criteria, we wanted our participants to be familiar with the back squat and be able to squat below parallel. Exclusion, any condition or injury that would limit their performance in the back squat, remove them from the study. Pre-testing methods, we received IRB approval. An informed consent and screening questionnaire was filled out prior to the first session, and then the food log was filled out prior to each session. Our warm-up protocol was 5 minutes on the treadmill, followed by a dynamic warm-up that was directed by a certified strength conditioning specialist. Data collection, we had the warm-up protocol on both days. The baseline session consisted of a 3 repetition max back squat, and this was adapted from the National Strength Conditioning Association's 1 repetition max protocol. The testing session, participants would squat 85% of their 3 RM for 10 single reps. Condition A, they perform 5 reps in their normal shoe with 30 seconds rest between each rep. Condition B, they perform 5 reps with the insert in their shoe with 30 seconds between each rep. These conditions were randomized and counterbalanced, and participants had 2 to 5 minutes of rest between each condition, so they weren't fatigued going into the next condition. So a little bit about the equipment we use. We have a Tendo Power Analyzer. This is what's known as a linear positioning transducer. This is probably the most accurate and valid measurement of velocity right now in the market. And it has 2 components, the microcomputer, which is attached to the rack, and then the sensor unit that lays on the ground with the string attached to the barbell. And this tracks velocity and displacement of the bar. And then by telling the computer what the load is on the bar, we can calculate average and peak power as well as average and peak force. And then we calculated work and impulse from these values. So our results, paired sample t-tests revealed that there were no significant differences for velocity or power, as well as peak force and average time to complete the lift. There were significant differences for average displacement and average force, favoring the VersaLift condition. So here we have a mean difference graph. So average force slightly favored the VersaLifts, and then mean differences for average displacement. Displacement did favor the VersaLifts. So our participants were able to squat deeper whenever their heels were elevated by VersaLift. So going into our discussion, these are the topics that we'll discuss. Newton's second law is force equals mass times acceleration. We know that mass is constant with the barbell load not changing. Peak velocity was not different between our conditions, neither was time. Therefore, we know that peak force was not significantly different. Impulse momentum principle. So we have force times change in time equals mass times velocity, or in this equation, displacement divided by change in time. We know that mass and time were constant between the conditions. The versalifts did improve average force and displacement, and these small increases probably offset our equation for us or balanced it. So average force didn't increase by a lot, and displacement was only about 10 to 20 millimeters more in the versalift condition. And this, down at the bottom, we can see that this small displacement did not significantly improve average velocity. The work energy principle. So we have work equals force times displacement. Kinetic energy is 1/2 times mass times velocity squared. And we know that mass was constant and versalifts improved our average force and displacement. However, there was not a significant increase in velocity. So we can see that it's possible that a non-significant increase in the velocity is what balanced our equation here. Limitations of our study. So the versalifts are a modest heel lift. Weightlifting shoes range from 3/4 of an inch to an inch. And next, not all of our participants were comfortable high bar back squatting and chose the low bar. Low bar requires less range of motion at the ankle, and you don't necessarily need more depth. So heel elevation will probably be more beneficial for Olympic lifts or high bar back squats than it would be that low bar back squat. And then we should have included the ankle mobility assessment. It's possible that those with restricted ankles improve their performance to a greater degree when using the versalifts. And then lastly, we did not standardize squat width, so a more narrow squat stance requires more range of motion from your ankles. So some literature. So heel elevation by weight plate does not increase force production. Elevating your foot by footwear results in greater quadricep activity. Loading patterns are only marginally affected by weightlifting shoes. And then there's slightly less hip flexion and more knee flexion when you elevate your heel. And then increased knee flexion reduces the demand for ankle dorsiflexion and allows for a more upright trunk. So we'll see that in high bar squats opposed to low bar. So here we have an example of what elevating your heel does for you. The red line in both figures represents the moment arm at the knee. By elevating our heel, we have a smaller moment arm at the hip, meaning less torque and less stress on the hips and low back and more towards the knee. And this can be greatly beneficial for individuals who have back issues or they just prefer squatting with an upright trunk. So moving forward, conclusion, the versalifts allowed for greater displacement and average force production, and the versalifts did not negatively impact any variable we were looking at. Heel elevation can improve your squat depth. However, it's going to be to a greater degree if you're a high bar back squatter versus a low bar back squatter. So you need more ankle range of motion in that upright trunk in a high bar. Versalifts are more affordable than weightlifting shoes, and they allow for a more upright trunk, which is going to help people who have low back issues stay healthy. It'll decrease your risk of injury. So here is our references. So you may be asking, do I need to go out and buy these versalifts? If you enjoy back squatting and you like to squat with an upright chest or Olympic lift or CrossFit, then yes, I highly recommend. If you are a low bar back squatter, then I would suggest that you're fine in normal flat shoes. So I would like to thank my colleagues, Sam Henry and Spencer Otto, as well as our advisor, Dr. Scott Arnett, in the exercise science department as a whole, and all of the participants that agreed to squat 85% of their 3 repetition max for 10 reps in a session. Thank you and have a great day. Bye bye.